He slept with my sister while I was carrying his baby. Maybe not the only one now. Hi, Reddit. I don't even know how to start this. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and my own family just exploded. I'm 30F, my husband, Daniel, 33M, and I have been married for 4 years. No kids, or at least we didn't think we had one coming. I'll get to that. My younger sister, Lena, is 28F. She and I have always had a strange relationship. Not hostile, but competitive. She was the fun one, always chasing attention. I was the responsible one, the stable daughter. But never in a million years did I think she would do this. It started so normal, too normal. Every few weeks, we'd go to dinner at my parents' house. Daniel was always polite, friendly, the kind of guy moms love. He'd help set the table, pour wine, laugh at my dad's dry jokes. He and Lena got along. A little too well, honestly. I'd see little things. They always ended up sitting side by side. He'd make these quiet, sarcastic comments, and she'd laugh too much. They had inside jokes I didn't remember being a part of. Daniel texting someone at the table and grinning to himself. But I brushed it off. Of course I did. I mean, he was my husband and she was my sister. Who even suspects something like that? Then came the coincidences. Daniel would casually mention, ran into Lena at the coffee shop by my office, or she had a flat, I helped her out. It was always spun like he was being a helpful brother-in-law. And Lena? She texts me stuff like, just grabbed coffee with Danny, love you guys. It was performative. Looking back, it was like they were building a fake alibi in real time, a public script. I should have seen it, but I didn't. I wanted to believe the best in both of them, and they used that against me. The thing that breaks me most, I trusted them completely. Lena had been my bridesmaid. Daniel had stood with me at the altar, promised forever. We shared a home, a life, and they shared each other. In my home, in my car, in my blind spot. At the time, I thought I was living a stable life, but now I know I was walking on cracking glass. And in part 2, it shattered. Title, Part 2:8. I caught my husband and my sister in our car, in the back seat. My whole body went cold. Hi Reddit, if you haven't read part 1, go check it out. Long story short, my husband Daniel, 33M, was getting a little too close to my younger sister Lena, 28F, and I ignored the red flags. Until I couldn't anymore. I just didn't think the truth would hit me this hard, or in that place. It happened on a random Thursday. I was coming home from work early, headache, just wanted to crawl into bed. I texted Daniel to see if he wanted me to pick up dinner, but he didn't respond. Weird, but not that weird. He often forgot to check his phone. I pulled into the parking lot behind our building, turned off the engine, and then I saw something I couldn't process at first. Our car. My car. The one Daniel had taken that morning because his was acting up. The windows were fogged, lightly rocking. It looked like something out of a cliché movie, only this was my life. I crept closer, heart pounding. And then I saw them, Daniel, Lena, in the back seat, half dressed, her legs on his lap, his shirt undone, her face buried in his neck. They were laughing, giggling like teenagers sneaking around after curfew. And I just froze, like my brain disconnected from my body. I must have stood there for 5 full seconds before I did the dumbest thing ever. I knocked on the window. The look on Lena's face when she turned and saw me? Panic. Daniel's reaction? He looked annoyed. He climbed out like I had interrupted him. "Why are you sneaking around like that?" he said, like I was in the wrong. "Are you kidding me right now?" I said. My voice cracked. "You're in my car, with my sister." Lena was already scrambling out, buttoning her shirt, not meeting my eyes. And Daniel, my husband, had the audacity to say, "Look, it's not what it looks like. You're being dramatic." Dramatic? He just got caught half naked with my sister and called me dramatic. I laughed, actually laughed, the kind of laugh that sounds like choking. Then I said, "Get out, both of you." Lena muttered, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it." I cut her off. Save it. You meant it every step of the way. They left together, and I sat in the driver's seat where they had just been and cried so hard I couldn't breathe. That night, I packed a bag and went to stay at my best friend's place. I didn't answer his calls or hers. I blocked both of them. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I was done. At least, I thought I was. But then came the pregnancy.
Title, Part 3, 8. After catching them, I took a pregnancy test, and my whole plan started to fall apart. If you've read Part 1 and Part 2, you know my husband Daniel cheated. I caught them in my car, practically naked, and somehow I was the crazy one for reacting. I walked away, moved out, lawyered up. I was done. Or at least I thought I was, until the universe decided to throw one more grenade into the middle of my life. The test wasn't planned. I hadn't even thought about pregnancy. We weren't trying. In fact, Daniel and I had barely slept together in the last couple months. Go figure. But I missed my period. I chalked it up to stress at first. The fighting, the betrayal, the utter collapse of my world. But something felt off. My body didn't feel right. I was nauseous. I felt tired all the time. So I bought a test, just to rule it out. I didn't even wait the full 3 minutes. The lines showed up instantly. Pregnant. And just like that, everything became complicated. I sat in my friend's bathroom staring at the test, feeling like I was in a dream I couldn't wake up from. I was finally out, finally cutting ties with a man who lied to me, cheated with my own sister, and didn't even seem sorry. And now I was carrying his child. And the worst part? He didn't know. Nobody knew. I told my best friend, and she just hugged me and said, "You don't have to decide anything yet, one step at a time." But suddenly, my lawyer meetings didn't feel so simple. I wasn't just divorcing a man anymore. I was potentially becoming a single mother. And then it got worse. At the first court hearing, Daniel and his lawyer showed up smug and composed. He denied the affair, of course, said I was emotionally unstable, and painted himself as the calm, rational husband. I was too raw to argue, too shocked. The judge didn't rule in my favor. No temporary spousal support, no restraining order, nothing. I walked out feeling like I had just been hit by a truck. And the tiny life inside me? That was now part of every choice I made. What do you do when you're trying to protect yourself, but there's a child growing inside you that ties you back to the person who destroyed you? I didn't have an answer, but I had to find one, fast, because what I didn't know yet was that Lena wasn't done, and neither was Daniel. Title, Part 4/8. I was pregnant and broken, and then my sister showed up at my door like nothing happened. Hi Reddit. If you've read the first 3 parts, you know the storm I'm in. Quick recap. My husband Daniel cheated on me with my younger sister Lena. I caught them in the back seat of my own car. I moved out, filed for divorce, then found out I was pregnant. At the first hearing, the court gave him the upper hand. Now I was sitting in legal and emotional limbo when Lena decided to crawl back into my life. It was a Sunday morning. I hadn't slept, the nausea was worse, and my head was pounding from stress. I was lying on my best friend's couch, scrolling through lawyer reviews when the doorbell rang. She looked through the peephole first and froze. Then she turned to me and said, "It's Lena." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I told her not to open it. She did anyway. Lena walked in like nothing happened. Hair perfectly styled, lip gloss on, dressed like she was on her way to brunch. "Hey, can we talk?" I didn't answer. I couldn't even look at her without feeling physically sick. She sat down like it was her apartment, like I had hurt her. "I just want to explain. You don't know everything." I finally said something. "What is there to explain, Lena? You were having sex with my husband in my car." She had the audacity to roll her eyes. "It wasn't like that. It wasn't serious." Serious? You blew up my marriage. You lied to me. You sat next to me at dinner while you were sneaking around behind my back. And then came her little grenade. "Well, maybe if you hadn't been so emotionally distant, he wouldn't have come to me." I lost it. I stood up and said, "Get out, right now, before I do something I regret." She stood too, slower. Her face changed. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" My heart stopped. "How do you?" "Daniel told me." So he knew. He knew I was pregnant, and he didn't call, didn't text, didn't even pretend to care. Instead, he told her. Lena looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If you think that baby is going to change anything, it won't." And then she walked out. Just like that, I collapsed onto the floor. Not because I was weak, but because I realized something terrifying. They weren't just together behind my back. They were still talking, still planning, still trying to control the narrative, and I was carrying a piece of it inside me. The next day, I made a decision. If the court wouldn't fight for me, I would fight for myself and for the baby. But the next twist, I didn't see it coming.
Title, Part 5-8. I found documents Daniel hid from me and it changed everything. Hey Reddit, you already know the story's a mess. My husband Daniel cheated on me with my sister Lena. I caught them together in my own car. I walked away, found out I was pregnant, then lost in court. Lena showed up, smug and heartless, and dropped the bomb that Daniel already knew. He didn't care. But what I found next proved he wasn't just careless, he was calculated. I had gone back to the apartment, only for a few hours, while Daniel was at work. I needed to grab my things, important stuff I couldn't leave behind, tax files, health insurance info, some old journals I'd hidden in the closet. I brought a friend with me just in case. I wasn't comfortable being there alone. We were going through the bedroom closet when she pulled down an old box labeled car docs. Not what I was looking for, but she passed it to me anyway. Inside were mostly car-related papers, insurance, service receipts, until I saw a thin yellow envelope tucked in the side pocket. No label, just sealed. I opened it. It was a printed email thread between Daniel and a divorce attorney, dated 6 months ago, long before I ever suspected anything. In it, he was asking about the division of property in case I filed for divorce, whether my personal savings from a family inheritance could be accessed, and whether he had any strategic advantage if I was emotionally unstable or too hormonal to testify clearly in court. He ended the email with, "She's been acting weird lately. If I play this right, she'll spiral on her own." I almost vomited. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a setup. He was laying groundwork for months, before I even knew he was cheating, before I knew I was pregnant. While I thought we were just having a rough patch, he was plotting how to win in court. And Lena, she was likely in on it. The pieces clicked. Why he was suddenly concerned about my mental health, why he seemed so prepared at the first court hearing, why he didn't care about the pregnancy. He was counting on using it against me. I gave the emails to my lawyer immediately. He was stunned. "This changes everything," he said. He filed a motion the same day to reopen the case and submit new evidence of premeditated manipulation and legal abuse. We also submitted a request for sole custody, arguing that Daniel was actively trying to destabilize me emotionally for legal advantage, and that such a person couldn't be trusted to co-parent safely. I should have felt relief. I finally had leverage, proof. But I didn't. I felt rage, not just at him, but at myself, for ever thinking this man loved me. And then came the next message from an unknown number. "If you think the court will believe you now, you're dumber than he says." I froze, because the number was Lena's. Title, Part 6/8. My sister texted me from a burner number. What she said chilled me. Hey Reddit, at this point you probably think I should be numb, but somehow every new twist still hits like a truck. Quick recap. My husband Daniel cheated on me with my sister Lena. I caught them in the backseat of my car. I found out I was pregnant, then lost in court. Then I discovered he had been planning the divorce behind my back for months. My lawyer reopened the case with evidence, and then I got a text. The message came late, 11:52 p.m. If you think the court will believe you now, you're dumber than he says. No name, no signature, just venom.
I stared at it for a full minute before replying. Lena, I know it's you. 3 dots. She was typing. You always play victim, but guess what? This time, no one believes it. Then, you're not stable. You never were, and I will testify to that if you keep pushing this. My hands were shaking. My stomach turned. She wasn't just backing Daniel. She was actively helping him destroy me. My own sister, the same person who used to braid my hair before school, now threatening to lie under oath to protect the man who cheated on both of us. But the next day, something unexpected happened. I got a DM request on Instagram from someone I hadn't talked to in over 10 years, Noelle, Daniel's ex-girlfriend from before we met. I only knew her name because she came up once when we first started dating. The message read, I heard what's happening. I'm so sorry. I went through something really similar with him. I asked her to explain, and then she sent a voice note. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Daniel isolated me from my family, gaslit me. He told people I was unstable so they wouldn't believe me when I finally left. He used to tell me I'd spiral if he left. Said no one would believe me. I lost everything before I finally got out. It was like hearing a ghost describe my exact life. The patterns, the manipulation, the tactics. It wasn't just me. He'd done this before. I asked her if she'd be willing to give a statement. She said yes, and even offered to testify if it came to that. My lawyer was over the moon. He called it the missing puzzle piece, a pattern of behavior. So now I had email evidence of premeditation, Lena's threatening texts, a documented pregnancy, and a willing ex with a nearly identical story. The court date was set. One more hearing, one more chance to expose everything. But Daniel wasn't done, because just before that final court appearance, he filed a motion for full custody, claiming I was mentally unwell and a risk to the unborn child. This time, though, I was ready.
Title: Part 7 of 8. He tried to take full custody and told the court I was unstable, but then the truth came out. Hi Reddit, we're almost at the end. If you followed the first 6 parts, you know what this has been. Betrayal, gaslighting, legal warfare. Now, Daniel tried to deliver the final blow. He filed for full custody of our unborn child, claimed I was emotionally unstable, irrational, and unfit to be a mother. And honestly, that would have worked if he hadn't underestimated how much evidence I had gathered. Court day came, and I was ready. I walked in calm, prepared. Every receipt, message, and statement printed and sorted in a binder thick enough to stun a buffalo. Daniel showed up with Lena. Yes, Lena, wearing heels and a smug little smile like she thought this was some courtroom fashion show. She even waved at me. Waved. Daniel's lawyer argued that I had violent mood swings, zero evidence, I had isolated myself, I moved out after catching him cheating, that pregnancy made me erratic and impulsive, and that Daniel and Lena were prepared to co-parent in a stable home together. Yes, you read that right. They were planning to co-parent, my husband and my sister, like this was normal. But then it was my turn. My lawyer stood up and calmly dropped a stack of papers on the judge's bench. We submitted the email thread Daniel had with his attorney 6 months earlier, laying out a strategy to make me look hormonal and unstable, Lena's text threats from the burner phone, a formal statement from Noelle, Daniel's ex, describing an identical pattern of abuse and manipulation, a timeline of the affair, and a summary from my OBGYN confirming I was mentally stable and under zero psychological risk. The judge went quiet as he read. And then, the twist. My lawyer played a 15-second audio clip. It was Daniel's voice, recorded 2 weeks ago when he accidentally left me a voicemail. He pocket-dialed me while talking to Lena. His voice, laughing, "Don't worry, she's too emotional to fight back. Pregnant or not, she's going to crack in court." The courtroom went dead silent. Lena looked like she'd seen a ghost. The judge took a breath and said, "Mr. Callahan,
It appears this court has been presented with not only credible evidence of emotional manipulation, but also witness testimony that your behavior is part of a repeated pattern. Then he looked directly at Lena and added, "And if you think that standing here beside your sister's husband makes you a fit parental figure, I suggest you rethink your role in this case." She looked down. For the first time in months, she looked ashamed. Final result, for now, Daniel's motion for full custody, denied. My custody motion, granted. Full legal rights as primary parent. Daniel, limited supervised visitation only after the child is born, pending review. Lena, barred from contact with me or the child, temporary protective order issued. They left without a word. I cried in the courthouse hallway, not because I was weak, but because for the first time, I felt free. But there's still one final part of this story, because 1 week later, I got a call from Daniel's ex. She had one last thing to tell me.
Title: Part 8 out of 8. He lost a case, lost me, but what his ex told me after the trial shook me to the core. Hi Reddit, this is the last part, the end of a long, painful, completely surreal chapter of my life. If you've read parts 1 through 7, you know what I've been through. My husband Daniel cheated on me with my sister Lena. I caught them in the backseat of my car. I found out I was pregnant, then lost the first court hearing. But I fought back, gathered evidence, reopened the case, and won full custody. Daniel's lies fell apart. Lena was exposed. I finally walked out of court with my head high. But just when I thought it was over, I got one more call. It was Noelle, Daniel's ex, the one who had testified for me, helped me build my case. She messaged me a week after the hearing and asked if we could talk. I agreed. We met in a quiet cafe. I was calm, finally breathing again. But the look on her face told me something was wrong. She sat down and said, "There's something I didn't tell you in court because I couldn't prove it, but you deserve to know." I braced myself. Then she told me this. Daniel had done this before, not just with her, not just with me. Apparently, in college, he got another woman pregnant, a girl he was casually seeing, and she chose to have the baby. He never claimed the child, never saw him, never paid a cent, just ghosted, left her to raise the kid alone. And now, that child would be almost 9 years old. She showed me old texts between her and a mutual friend confirming the story. The mother had tried to contact him a few times, and Daniel ignored every message. I felt my stomach twist. I thought I was dealing with a cheating husband, a manipulator, a liar. But Daniel wasn't just selfish, he was a pattern. He created messes, left behind wreckage, and walked away like none of it mattered. So what now? Well, I'm 35 weeks pregnant. The baby is healthy, growing strong. I haven't spoken to Daniel or Lena since the court decision, and I plan to keep it that way. I'm getting support from real friends, from therapy, and weirdly from Noelle, who checks in weekly now. 2 women once fooled by the same man, now finding strength through shared survival. What I've learned? Trust your gut, always. People who call you emotional are often trying to shut you up. Protect your peace, even if it means walking away from blood or vows. And most of all, you don't owe anyone the rest of your life just because they were part of your past. To everyone who read this, thank you. Writing this saved me, and maybe if you're going through something similar, it'll remind you, you're not crazy, you're not weak, you're just waking up. And when you do, you don't go back to sleep. OP Broken. The end.